Welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk, Uygur, and Kasparian with you guys. Fun show ahead for you guys. We got Democrats in the primary. We got Donald Trump and the Republicans freaking out over impeachment. We got them attacking a lieutenant colonel with a Purple Heart. Of course, they never meant anything. They never meant family values. They never meant balanced budgets. They never meant small government, and they certainly didn't mean support the troops. So we're gonna bust them up all night long. With that, let's get started.
Yes, let's get started. I love it. So we're gonna get to all the Republican nonsense later in the show. I actually want to start off with something that we had prepared for yesterday. We didn't get to it. It's at the top today, so let's do it.
Boom.
I cannot freaking believe I'm up here. So I want to officially say hello to my original squad.
That's Rashida Tlaib. She formally endorsed Bernie Sanders for president in Detroit over the weekend. And our very own Emma Vigeland actually had an exclusive one-on-one interview with Representative Tlaib. Let's watch.
I saw someone like Pete Budaj, he basically said that Medicare for all, Sanders and Warren supporting it infringes on people's freedoms. When you're going to a community like this where healthcare is certainly not guaranteed for your constituents, how do you respond to a statement like that?
Well, I can tell you, our residents, we're in the front lines of what doing nothing looks like, from the healthcare system to what's going on with our climate crisis. And residents are not being easily gaslighted to believe that that's what it's about. They believe, and this is something that, that's why Medicare for all is so important, is they understand how inhumane our healthcare system is in this country. The fact that people are dying because they're poor. Yeah. And that alone is enough for them to understand whatever Pete and others are saying about this issue. They're not believing it. They understand right now what's happening in the for-profit healthcare system is just killing people. It shows just how disconnected they are with the majority of American people right now that don't have access to healthcare.
So before we comment on the substance of what Rashida Tlaib had to say there was a lot of substance. I do want to tell you what Budaj said right before the last Democratic debate. Budaj is trying to focus on choice, not infringing on people's freedom to make that decision voluntarily, right? So this is a common talking point that we hear from corporatist Democrats, individuals who have not rejected corporate PAC money and are certainly influenced by the private healthcare industry. Don't be fooled by this myth of choice. This is all just a way to protect the private insurance companies. But Cenk, I think Rashida did a great job in answering that question. And it really does show you that there's a huge difference between progressives in the Democratic Party, people like Rashida Tlaib and members of the squad, and the corporatist Democrats like Budaj, who are much more concerned with protecting private industry.
Well, I love that, the way of framing it. Like, people would like to have a choice of whether they die from cancer or don't die from cancer. We're gonna take that freedom away from them by just making sure everyone has health care? Outrageous. People would like to have the choice of bankrupting themselves from private insurance or not at all bankrupting themselves and being part of insurance that covers everyone. That's not really that interesting a choice. Look, there's a lot that I loved about what Rashida Tlaib said, and this is why it's great to have strong progressives in Congress, because unfortunately, until this cavalry arrived, it was basically Bernie Sanders and I would argue Elizabeth Warren holding down the fort by themselves. She says, my community is the front lines of what it looks like to do nothing.
Exactly.
God, nobody ever says that. Nobody ever says that. Everybody's constantly, including all of the corporate media, talking about like, what if we do any change? Let me tell you all the terrible things about change. My God, it might cost the top 5% a little bit more money, which by the way, that is true. In Medicare for all, everyone in the bottom 95% pay less. That's a fact, okay? The top 5% do pay a little bit more. And so the corporate media flips out. They're like, oh my God, what's gonna happen to our beloved 5%? This is change, it costs.
Well, they're part of that 5%. Let's keep it real. I mean, members of the corporate media, they're either funded by individuals who are part of the top 5%, or they're part of the top 5% themselves because of their very lucrative contracts on television.
And Anna, when you say that, when Rashida Tlaib says that, they say, that's outrageous, how could you tell people the facts? Are you accusing us of bias? Yes, I am. So let's just be clear about that. So because one of your massive biases is what Congresswoman Tlaib is saying there. How about the cost of not doing anything? The cost of not doing change. Right now, currently, our healthcare system costs twice as much on average as all other developed countries who all have single payer. How about the cost of this insanely expensive system put on all of us? How often have you heard Anderson Cooper say that? How often have you heard anybody on MSNBC say that? So-called, well, they don't even pretend to be progressive anymore, but that network that the mainstream media thinks is like, oh, MSNBC's on the left, right? No one says it, no one says it. So that's why these Justice Democratic congresswomen are so popular, because they're actually fighting for everyone, unlike any of the rest of the corporate Democrats that just sit there and take the money. By the way, Pete Buttigieg, he was for Medicare for all earlier in the year.
And then he started taking corporate PAC money. So let's talk about that a little bit, because that's important.
Because he took over $1 million from the healthcare industry, all of a sudden he's not for Medicare for all.
So he was asked previously, well, why did you first say that you would reject corporate PAC money and now you are reversing your decision on that? And he was quoted as saying, we're not gonna beat Trump with pocket change. So he is, using this excuse of, well, if we're gonna beat Trump, we can't rely on our messaging, we can't rely on policies that actually help people. We're gonna go ahead and rely on campaign donations so we can buy ads and we can push out this message.
Wait, Pete, what do you mean pocket change? Bernie Sanders outraised you. Elizabeth Warren outraised you.
It's a really good point.
So hey, I guess we can't go with Pete Buttigieg. He got outraised, he's got pocket change. So by his own definition, you should definitely not vote for him. I'm not saying that, Pete Buttigieg is saying that. He's saying, I got pocket change. Even though I went and begged all the corporate donors and they gave me millions of dollars, I still couldn't keep up with the small dollar donations that Warren and Sanders have. So I guess since I have pocket change, I'm a loser and you shouldn't vote for me.
And Buttigieg isn't the only one who reversed course when it came to taking corporate PAC money. Unsurprisingly, if you ask me, Biden also reversed his course on that. And over the weekend, the New York Times ran a piece titled "Biden Campaign Drops Opposition to Super PAC Support." And if you pay close attention to Biden's message, it's still as confusing as ever. So it's not like there's been a big change in his messaging ever since he reversed course. But it is important to know that he'll promise one thing and then immediately change his mind. And part of the reason why is because his fundraising, his donations from small dollar donors really did dry up. Whereas with Bernie Sanders, the donations from small dollar donors continues.
No, let me be even more clear on the differences here. Look, Biden and Buttigieg are always taking corporate PAC money. Now Biden is saying, I'll also let super PACs take unlimited money. So a corporate PAC or corporate executives or lobbyists could give the Biden and Buttigieg $2,800 at a time. And so Biden has almost no small donors. They're all big donors already, even before he made the change. So, but all of his millionaire and billionaire donors tapped out at $2,800 and he's got nothing left to raise from them. So he goes, okay, fine, forget it, I meant super PACs. So the super PAC then comes in and goes to the $2,800 donors and goes, now you can give me $28,000, now you can give me $280,000, you can give me unlimited money because now Biden has said, there's no end to my corruption. I'll do whatever you guys tell me. By the way, Biden in the past has said, well, when somebody gives me $250,000, I'm gonna take their call after the election. He told rich donors, nothing will fundamentally change. He said that in this election cycle.
That's right. And so Representative Tlaib was asked by Emma Vigeland, all right, well, let's talk a little bit about the differences. Why is it that Bernie Sanders is able to reject this super PAC money? Take a look.
So you only took small dollar donations, you were a Justice Democrat. Senator Sanders is running on just small dollars, he's not doing big money donors. Can you talk about how that informs both of your values and why you've been supportive of him?
Yeah, I mean, this movement around, look, anybody that wants to take away the tainting of our democracy and give it back to the people, it has to start with them being our partners in this public service, in transforming our country. And it is individual donations that is going to do that, not corporate PACs. I won an election where I was the only candidate in the race that didn't take corporate PAC money, and I won. I won against establishment candidates, against those that were being supported by, very well-known organizations, community groups, and folks that believe that's that pathway to getting public service and folks to represent them. And then folks realize, no, we can't afford a sellout.
I love how she speaks so bluntly and honestly. That's what a representative is supposed to look like. And so when Just Democrats said no corporate PAC money, people thought, well, that's impossible, you can't win, except they did win. Obviously, Tlaib, Omar, Presley, and AOC, let alone the incumbents like Ro Khanna and Pramila Jayapal and Grijalva. So then everybody's like, oh yeah, okay, good, no corporate PAC money, right? A lot of the presidential candidates said that. Some of them, as we pointed out earlier, did not say that. But the ones who were more establishment-like, they thought it was a gimmick. It's not a gimmick, it's real. And so when you don't take it, you're supposed to then represent the voters. You're supposed to do populist or progressive positions that the voters like, or whatever positions the voters like. But except they didn't bring those policies with them. They're just like, oh, okay, support me because I'm not taking corporate PAC money. Well, look, good, that's a great beginning, but you gotta follow it up. And if you still go with the old corporate policies, it's still not popular. Look, guys, the dynamic of the race. So Warren's counted out in the beginning. Oh, she did some DNA tests, and so we're eliminating her. Ridiculous, right? She does all those plans and policies, she rises to the top. And then Bernie as our attack comes back, fights harder on getting money out of politics, starts calling out corruption, and is even more to the left of Warren. Guess what happened today? New poll out, CNN. Bernie's #1 in New Hampshire. What happened, mainstream media? I thought he was out. I thought you said he was eliminated. Who do you think is going to be in third place next? Is what the conversation was.
I'm very curious how Nate Silver is spinning the Vermont story.
100%, Anna. In fact, as soon as I saw that poll, I was like, hurry up, get Nate Silver to find out why this is the poll that doesn't matter.
Right.
This poll doesn't matter either. This one is. So he's at #1, Warren's at #2. So in Iowa, Warren's at #1, and nationally they're in the top 3. Hey, let me ask you guys something. Why is it that the most progressive candidates with almost no media help have risen to the top? Is it because Bernie's so charismatic? I don't know, mainstream media tells me he's not charismatic. Every day they tell me that, right? They told us that Warren was eliminated right in the beginning. So could it be that the voters are actually really progressive? Like that's the one theory that the mainstream media has never considered. Isn't that amazing? It's right there, it's so obvious. They keep going to the left of one another, Warren and Sanders. They're like, oh yeah, hold my beer. Here's an even more progressive policy plan. And they keep going rising and rising. And all the candidates that are in the conservative branch of the Democratic Party, which is almost all the rest of them, keep sinking. And they're still talking about Budaj. You know, the CNN poll that came out that has Bernie at #1 in New Hampshire, they said Klobuchar and Budaj were spiking.
Oh, come on.
I swear to God, at 5%.
Oh, come on. I can't. No, but just think about that for a second. I mean, think about how insanely powerful Bernie Sanders' message is, because he has everything working against him, right? He has this giant media infrastructure constantly working against him. You have people on social media spreading lies and nonsense, minimizing and belittling polls indicating that he's doing really well in these incredibly important states. It's just, and again, his message is so powerful that he still breaks through.
Okay, the other thing I want to give credit to Representative Tlaib on, that word gaslighting. That's exactly what the corporate media does and corporate Democrats do. So have you heard a single media outlet talking about, oh my God, huge news today, Bernie Sanders #1 in New Hampshire?
No.
We'll keep waiting. It's a poll, you know whose poll it is? CNN's poll, it's a CNN poll, right? Do you hear them like going nuts about it? No. Whenever there's any bad news with Bernie's out, out. Right?
Yeah.
Well, you said he was out 1,000 times. And right now, he's #1 in one of the first 2 states, one of the most important states. How is that not interesting news to you?
Well, I don't think it's a question of whether or not it's interesting news. Bernie Sanders signals to them, I'm going to disrupt this system. He is the candidate who is abundantly clear about that. And this system has been very good for a select few. And a lot of those people work in media. A lot of those people have taken advantage of the system. So of course they're going to minimize that type of news, and they're going to pretend as though he's not really a threat. He's not really a thing. And again, look, there's the media, and then there's also the Democratic establishment. They still don't take him seriously. They still fight against him, and they're still trying to prop up various establishment candidates or corporatist candidates who keep failing. I mean, Klobuchar, failing. Buttigieg, failing.
You mean spiking.
I mean.
But Bernie has quadrupled the numbers of Buttigieg in New Hampshire. And if you ask almost any reporter in Washington who has a better chance of winning, they will say Buttigieg.
Of course they will.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And then then they'll turn around and say you're biased. I'm looking at the polling, telling you who's at #1 and who's at like number 28. He's not at 28. Okay, he's I think in 5th or 6th place. And you're looking at the polling going, no, the guy in 5th is spiking.
Impressive.
The guy at #1 is already eliminated.
Can you imagine if Bernie? No, let's also flip it to Bernie losing support, which obviously I don't want that to happen, but a little thought experiment. If he slips to the 5th place, how would the media cover that?
Oh.
How would the media cover that?
Are you kidding me? If Buttigieg was at #1 in New Hampshire and was polling at 21% in New Hampshire, right now there'd be a ticker tape parade on CNN and everywhere else. The New York Times would be like, oh, we knew it. We knew it, our beloved Buttigieg. Okay, and by the way, if you're asking from my statement earlier, if you take millions of dollars from corporate interests like the healthcare industry, and then you switch your position to being in favor of the healthcare industry and against the American people, if I think that's corruption, yes, I think that's corruption, and I think that makes politicians like Pete Buttigieg corrupt. Is that clear enough? And you're the one biased for not recognizing the obvious. Last thing is, Rashida Tlaib had that great shirt, Everybody versus Injustice. It looks a lot like our shirt, Progressives versus Everybody.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wait, is that a TYT shirt? I'm not saying shop TYT.com, except I just said it. But the reason I brought it up, seriously, is that's why we say Progressives versus Everybody. Because we got the Republicans against us, the alt-right despises us. You got to battle the corporate media, you got to battle the rest of the Democratic Party. We're right on the facts. We're right that the voters want progressive policies. All the policies poll sky high, and now our candidates at the presidential level are polling sky high, and yet everyone else that is in power says no. Progressives are no good, and the only way to win is to pick a centrist Democrat to run against Trump, just like Hillary Clinton. You remember when she beat him? Oh, right, she didn't.
All right, well, let's compare people like Rashida Tlaib to people like Joe Biden. This story, not good for Biden, very bad. So, despite previously pledging to reject super PAC money, Biden did change his mind and he will now accept super PAC money. Now, this is something to keep in mind when it comes to various issues like climate change, okay? If he's gonna take money from the fossil fuel industry, is he going to push for the right policies to combat climate change? Well, he was asked about this by a Sunrise Movement activist, and pay close attention to what I consider the degrading way or degrading language he used to talk to her.
From Sunrise, and I'm terrified for our future since you reversed it and now taking super PAC money. Since you're now taking super PAC money, how can we trust that you're not fighting for the people profiting off climate change?
Look at my record, child. Look at my record.
Is you fight to go into the Iraq war and
No, that's not right.
So that was a great question. How can we trust you to do the right thing when it comes to climate change if you're gonna take super PAC money, if you're going to accept money from the fossil fuel industry? And his answer was, look at my record, child. Okay, fair enough. First of all, I don't like the fact that he referred to her as a child, but if he wants us to look into his record, we can do that right now. You wanna do that right now?
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Can't wait. All right, so Joe Biden asking ye shall receive. First of all, you got the bankruptcy bill. I asked about this to his handlers in the spin room after the last debate. They laughed it off. It is a fact. He was a proud author and sponsor of the bankruptcy bill, and he still brags about it. That is the bill that says you cannot discharge student debt. So trillions of dollars in student debt, albatross around all those students' necks. If you've got that kind of debt and you're on hard times and you can't discharge it, even though Donald Trump can declare bankruptcy after bankruptcy, rich people can declare bankruptcy ad nauseum. But if you're a student, Biden doesn't let you declare bankruptcy and doesn't let you discharge the debt. That was Biden. That is Biden. We looked at your record, and now you turn around and dismissively call those students child. No. Your dismissive attitude is gross. Here, let me quickly run through some of the others. The '94 crime bill wound up imprisoning millions of people over all of these decades. Was draconian. He bragged that an earlier version of the bill gave people a death penalty for everything but jaywalking. He was the person who pushed Ronald Reagan to the right on the war on drugs. That also helped to imprison millions of people. Total insanity, doesn't make any sense at all, and particularly targeted the African American community. I would love to look at your record. I wish everybody knew your record. I'm not anywhere near done. Then you've got the Iraq War, which was an epic disaster. He says, I have great experience. You have experience in making horrific decisions and letting Republicans walk all over you, but who knows, maybe you also wanted to create chaos in the Middle East. He, to this day, is against busing, is proud to have worked with segregationist Republicans in the Senate. Anita Hill, look, I can go on for a whole hour about what he did in the Anita Hill testimony, but I want you to know he was not Anita Hill's Republican accusers. He was supposed to be her Democratic friend, the ally, I should say, that put her up to get the testimony about Clarence Thomas. Do you know that he did not allow corroborating witnesses? They had him. They could have backed up her story, but Biden wouldn't let them testify. So it made it seem like she's the only one.
And by the way, his attempt at revisionist history in regard to the Anita Hill hearings included arguing that he was trying to protect her from some of the degrading questions that Republicans were asking during those hearings. But if you go back and you watch those videos, he clearly stated at the time that he believed that it was the right thing to allow them to ask any and all questions to get to the bottom of the truth, regardless of how degrading they were.
So no bars for Republicans. You do no, I should say, no holds barred for Republicans. You could do anything you like, okay? But Anita Hill, you have witnesses that'll back up your story? No, you're not allowed to present them. That's Joe Biden. But one last thing. He also, in 2012, not decades ago, in 2012, as vice president, extended the Bush tax cuts in a deal so toxic, so terrible, that even Michael Bennet, the most mild-mannered corporate Democrat you've ever seen, is now furious about it, talked about it in the debates, and wrote a whole book about how Biden betrayed the Democrats by giving the rich everything they wanted. Mitch McConnell was thrilled with that deal. That's who Joe Biden is. You want to talk about your record and then call people children? Are you kidding me? Look, and I'm gonna blame two more sets of people here. First of all, media. You won't cover stories about Buttigieg's record in South Bend. You say, well, look, I think he's spiking, he's doing wonderful, he's doing fantastic, but he's in 5th place, so I'm not gonna cover any of his downsides. Okay, what's your excuse on Biden? He's in 1st place. And you tell me, he's a presumptive nominee, he's in 1st place, he's doing great, etc. So, okay, why aren't we talking about the war on drugs? Why aren't we talking about the crime bill? Why aren't we talking about the bankruptcy bill? Or why aren't we talking about extending the Bush tax cuts for the rich? Are you doing your job at all? At all? Or is every negative article, is it a mandate? And I wanna know, is it a memo? Or is it just groupthink? I think it's probably groupthink, but it's so pervasive now, it's absurd. Is it a memo in your organizations at the New York Times, the Washington Post, that the only negative articles you can write are about Bernie Sanders? Okay, so, or prove me wrong and do your goddamn job. Is the bankruptcy bill not relevant? In that scrum where I asked that question in the spin room, there were dozens of reporters. They laughed, even though the spokespeople did, when I asked a question that is 100% factual. The rest of the reporters, you wanna follow up? Hey, maybe you'll find that I was wrong. Oh, no. Biden wasn't even in the Senate during the bankruptcy bill. He had nothing to do with it. All right, great, then write that story. No, you don't wanna do your job because you love the establishment and you hate progressives. And then finally, I'm also mad at the progressive candidates. Yes, including Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Are you gonna run against the guy, or are we gonna play patty cakes? The elections are in a couple of months. Why won't you talk about the bankruptcy bill? Why won't you talk about all the issues that I just talked about? Well, like, are you agreeing with the rest of Washington that you have to be genteel to other Democrats? Primaries are about choices. If you rob the voters of information they need to make the correct choice, then you can't turn around later and go, oh my God, we had an unfair process. No, right now, nobody is telling Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren not to talk about Biden's record. If they continue to make that mistake and people vote without knowing Biden's true record, it is on them. It is a terrible, terrible mistake that they should immediately correct.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think that Bernie is the type of person who fights like that, but I think that this is a very unique time, and this is when he absolutely should. Here's the thing, he's gonna get attacked regardless. The corporate media will attack Bernie Sanders regardless of what he does. They're attacking him right now, and he's not even going after Biden. Yes, they will attack him if he goes after Biden as well, but he needs to do it precisely for the reasons that you just mentioned right now. We can't assume that all these American voters are paying close attention to the records of every single candidate. They don't have the resource of time to do that. So it's important to take advantage of those debate moments to draw clear distinctions between yourself and the other candidates, especially I can't even believe it, the front runner still, Joe Biden.
So look, Bernie mentioned at the very end of the last debate, the Iraq war, and I believe the bankruptcy bill, just in passing. But first of all, nobody knows the bankruptcy bill. So you have to go out and explain to them what it is. And you can't mention it in passing. You have to make an active argument against it. You have to force the media to talk about it. Bernie and Warren's politeness could cost this election. And that is incredibly selfish of them. Oh, I don't want to be perceived as the bad guy by Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi.
They already think you're the bad guy. Well,
they already hate you. They already do dinners with big dollar Democratic donors, plotting not against Elizabeth Warren, but against Bernie Sanders.
Right.
Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi actively go to those dinners, and they plot your demise. Your politeness can cost progressives everything. Stop it already.
So enough about what we think. We actually want to know what the audience thinks, and we'd like you to participate on a poll regarding this very question. Are Warren and Sanders being too soft on Biden? And you have two choices there. Yes, they need to do a much better job of exposing Biden's true record, or no, we have to maintain Democratic unity so we can defeat Trump in the general election.
No, you say that with smiling, but
no, I know, I've heard that
a lot of people. So first of all, that's why I framed it as fairly as we can. A lot of people believe that. I don't know how many people in our audience believe that. That's why I'm curious. That's why we're asking you. It's tyt.com/Biden to vote. We'll share the results with you guys tomorrow. But if you ask everyone in the corporate media and everyone in the Democratic Party outside progressives, they'd be like, oh, no. We have to unite, so don't ever attack anybody. Well, how about all your attacks against Bernie? Well, that doesn't count, he's a progressive, so screw him. But we have to unite, and you have to never, ever criticize anyone you're running against, because you'll cost us the election. I mentioned one of these things in passing on Twitter, immediately 3 tweets in response. Oh, no, Jake, you're gonna cost us the election. Hide what Biden, you think Trump is gonna hide Biden's true record? You think the Republicans are gonna be like, oh no, let's take it easy on Biden? What a stupid idea to not share his record and to let the Republicans spring that in the general election. It's almost as if it was the same thing they did with Hillary Clinton, where they said, don't talk about her true record in the primary. And then it turns out Republicans decided to do it anyway in the general election. Guess who won that election? They never learn because they don't want to learn.
The point of the primary is to choose the best possible Democratic candidate to go head to head with Donald Trump. But more importantly, someone who has the right policy proposals and who's gonna fight for the American people. So if we're gonna play these games and be soft on the worst possible candidates, I just think that it does the American people a huge disservice. So please answer that poll, let us know what you think. And again, the URL is tyt.com/Biden, tyt.com/Biden. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, we have an awesome new investigative report from our very own Ken Klippenstein. And then later in the show, we're going to give you an update on the Trump impeachment investigation.
We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you want to get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, Become a member at tyt.com/join today. In the meantime, enjoy this free segment. All right, back on Young Turks. Let's read member comments as usual. Ignoratio Elenchi. Sorry.
Sound like me yesterday with my daddy's name.
Okay, that daddy's name. Anyway, writes in, everyone who's against Medicare for All has some vested interest in not passing it, full stop. Agree. Year of Yesterday says, Budaj, people should have a choice when it comes to healthcare. Potentially, Budaj. People should also have a choice when it comes to having a fire department. Oh, great, devastating. Year of Yesterdays, I'm using that going forward. Nice job, we do the show together. Karen Ray says, so happy to see Cenk today. Karen, I'm happy to see you. Okay, going to Twitter.
Aggressive.
Right? Today Aaron sent me a video of when I said in 2013, Bernie Sanders could beat Hillary Clinton, and everybody thought I was mental. The sidebar was picture of Bernie, and it said aggressive, progressive. Okay, so anyways, Son of Liberty says that freedom of choice argument is garbage. We don't choose our healthcare now for the most part, our employers do. In actuality, it would give us the freedoms to try new things, work where we want, no fear of medical debt, and staying healthy is freedom. They hate that. All excellent points. Johnny Grateful says it was an inspiring rally, referring to the one in Detroit that Emma covered. I definitely want to attend more of those kind of things. First of all, if you want to watch more of Emma's interview with Rashida Tlaib, youtube.com/rebelhq. You could always go to tyt.com and find all of our shows. That's another way of doing it. And if you want to attend our rally before the next debate, that's in Atlanta. Go to tyt.com/rally, give us your information, and we'll tell you where and when. And then last one is Real Time writes in on Twitter, maybe a progressive town hall would be more productive than just a climate town hall, since climate is a natural policy choice. People need to hear all the policies. So guys, now I'm gonna say for now, I don't know, third time, eighth time, we're working on that climate change town hall / debate behind the scenes. It is incredibly difficult to put together because the candidates would have to violate the DNC rules. We knew that going in, but we promised you guys that we would try our best, and we are trying our best. Unfortunately, I don't have an update yet on whether that's going to happen, but we're working furiously behind the scenes. I wanted you to know that. Okay.
All right, and then a few other announcements. We have a new shirt at Shop TYT, and it's been designed by a TYT fan. Her name is Stephanie Waters Flores, and I particularly love the wording on this T-shirt. Take out the trash in 2020 with a red MAGA hat on top of a trash can. I love this design, and I like that deep V shirt. Very nice.
ShopTYT.com. I wore that on Old School last week, but by the way, it doesn't say trash and it doesn't say a MAGA hat. We're just saying.
That's hilarious.
Okay, and by the way, I love that you guys design our shirts. So thank you, Stephanie. Wonderful work.
And then finally, we have an awesome conversation during today's show between me and Cenk. But later on, during the conversation portion of the main show, we're gonna have Ro Khanna on to have a discussion with Cenk. So check that out at 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific, tyt.com/live.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask some questions about some of the interesting conflicts going on in Congress right now, especially within the Democratic Party. Don't miss that.
Jerome.
Yes.
All right.
What's next?
Well, some more original reporting by TYT, so let's get to that. A new TYT Investigates report by our reporter Ken Klippenstein indicates that the Trump administration has actually greenlit the notion of the military, which is deployed at our southern border, to use lethal force against migrants who are accused of civil disturbances at ports of entry. So TYT actually learned of this policy through military documents that Ken Klippenstein obtained through an anonymous Pentagon source. So this individual, of course, wanted to remain anonymous so there wouldn't be retaliation against him or her. However, this document was dated in February of 2019, and here's what it said. The documents marked for official use only reveal that during civil disturbance operations, certain military personnel have been granted lethal capability to protect soldiers in riot control formation at ports of entry. Military personnel are also permitted, the documents show, to use deadly force to protect other personnel engaged in border security operations and even to protect property. Now I think this is already an issue, but what makes it even more of an issue is that the documents do not, under any circumstance, define what constitutes a civil disturbance, right? So this is open for interpretation. It gives members of the military a lot more power to arbitrarily carry out lethal force. And when you consider some of the rhetoric used by Donald Trump, this is incredibly problematic. In fact, why don't we go to a video from November of 2018? This is the kind of mindset that Donald Trump has when it comes to asylum seekers seeking asylum at the ports of entry.
Nothing political about a caravan of thousands of people and now others forming, pouring up into our country. We have no idea who they are. All we know is they're pretty tough people when they can blast through the Mexican military and Mexican police. They're pretty tough people. Even Mexico said, wow, these are tough people. Anybody throwing stones, rocks, like they did to Mexico and the Mexican military and Mexican police, where they badly hurt police and soldiers of Mexico, we will consider that a firearm. Because there's not much difference when you get hit in the face with a rock, which, as you know, it was very violent a few days ago, very, very violent.
So, first of all, it's really important to note that this order is illegal. The Posse Comitatus Act limits the military from enforcing domestic policies on US soil. So they're not even supposed to act within the country. The military is for defense outside the country. Now, Donald Trump is ignoring that completely. And then now this Department of Defense order says it was ordered by Donald Trump, saying not only can they act inside the country, they could use lethal force inside the country. For what? A civil disturbance. No one knows what that means. By the way, sometimes if your party's too loud, they call that a civil disturbance. So, and now important context to this, if you're thinking, well, that sounds like an exaggeration. No, remember, a recent report came out saying that Donald Trump wanted to shoot migrants at the border. His staff told him that would be deeply illegal and that they would not be allowed to do that. He said, well, then can we shoot them in the leg? And then he puts out this illegal order saying, yeah, the army can act within the United States and he can even kill people inside the United States. Look, I don't know what to do with this. We have complete lawlessness. It's not just about a call with Ukraine. It's not just about his Russian ties and all the other things that the laws he's personally violated. He keeps giving illegal orders, and a lot of times he will say, and this was another story where he again related to the border, where he said, just do the things that I want and don't worry about it whether it's illegal. In one particular case, it was about taking people's private property without their permission.
At the border to build the wall.
Yeah, and by the way, a lot of those folks are Republicans that voted for Donald Trump, and we showed you interviews with them in the past. And he said, I don't care if it's illegal, do it, I'll pardon you later. He left the room and other high-ranking officials said, don't do that. Don't break the law, even if the president tells you to. But here's an order that he gives to the Department of Defense that they then tell our soldiers. Yeah, you're allowed to act inside the United States and you're allowed to shoot and kill people inside the United States. Absolutely outrageous. Nothing being done about it.
We got to take a break. When we come back, we have the latest on the impeachment investigation, including desperate Republicans and Trump lackeys doing everything and anything they can to smear people who are doing the right thing and testifying against Donald Trump.